All right, so this is Coach Mays, Asbury University women's basketball coach. Coach, to start, I usually just ask about your the guest background. So, how did you get into basketball, and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, it's kind of a story because I was actually I played in high school, and then I had an opportunity. Actually, when I got out, I went into college. I did not play in college. I had a couple opportunities, but I just decided I wasn't going to play. And then when I got out of college, I actually went in and became a police officer. And the one of the neat things was is one of the coaches at my alma mater in high school, which is no longer there, the old Harrisburg High School. He actually brought me in and said, "Would you be interested in just kind of becoming a peer professional and working kind of through the community, working with some of the kids, some of the guys there?" Because I was a little bit older, and so would you be interested in helping come alongside and just kind of helping some of the youth, high school guys? And I said, yeah. And I never really ever thought, I mean, I had a love of basketball, obviously growing up, but I never, never in my wildest dreams thought that it would be something that I would actually do, and that even that I would enjoy. I was just kind of there, just more along the lines of just going to kind of pour into the guys. Um, it bit me. The bug bit me, and when I did, I fell in love with coaching, and that was it was years ago. That was back in the early '90s, and did that. It coached guys for several years, and it's taken me on a long journey. And I went from there to actually coaching high school girls for a while at Mercer County High School, and then at Boyle County High School. And my wife and I, we do mission work, traveled overseas, and was able to coach high school guys and semi-pro men. And then I had an opportunity to coach college women. So I mean, I've got a little bit of everything when it comes to coaching college.
Mhm. Growing up, what athletes? It doesn't have to be basketball. What athletes overall did you look up to growing up?
Um, I mean, really, just any. I would say any of the athletes. I liked. I was a 49ers fan growing up, so I liked like Jerry Rice, and of course he's not that much older, but I mean he's a little bit older than me, but it was one of those deals where any of the guys that worked hard, I really liked that. I was a Joe Montana guy, like Joe Montana, Jerry Rice. So that was actually in football, and then in basketball, I was a big Dr. J guy. I love the 76ers. Of course, now it's so crazy because now it's kind of hard to just root for one team because they all the athletes and all the sports, they move around so much. Coach Schaus and I, we talk about that all the time. It's so hard to just latch on to one team because but back in the day, I would like the Cincinnati Reds and the Boston Red Sox, and because they were in opposite divisions, and I was a huge Jim Rice guy. Played for the Red Sox, and Dave Concepcion for the Reds, the Big Red Machine. So I just, I like that. That's a lot of the old school stuff that I liked growing up. So,
So, you've coached like I mean, both like levels. I mean, you said like semi-pro and even like college. What like
mhm.
what stands out the most like between like all the like I mean from high school to college to even like semi-pro? Like what big differences like did you have to like change up like your coaching style?
Well, I would say, the style that I coach has never changed. I mean, like the way I coach, I mean, I would say I know when I was getting interviewed for the job at Asbury, they asked me, are you going to do, are you going to, how are you going to do coaching college women versus, coached, semi-pro men or high school guys or high school. And I was like, well, look, athletes are athletes. I would be doing the college women a disservice if I looked at them as, quote unquote women. Now obviously there's differences in men and women, maybe from the men I was used to them playing like, above the rim as far as, the semi-pro and even where I was coaching, I coached Dennis Johnson and Craig East and some of those guys that went on and played in the NFL. So there was a huge difference in athleticism when it came to that. But what we recruited here to where I'm at now at Asbury, from when I took over to where I'm at now, the athleticism, it's a stark contrast when you come in. You'll see the athleticism. So the style of play, it's this exact same style of play that I was using when I was an head assistant coach at all the stops I was at. So style is no different. Now, like I said, now obviously you have to look at things a little bit different. They may not be able to do some of the things that we did with the men, but I still demand just the same amount of effort that you would, and they want it. They that's the kind of effort they want that type of coaching.
Landon, do you want to go to some of your questions?
Yeah. So being the head coach of the women's team at Asbury, what is one thing you would like to be changed to make like the viewership of the game for women increase?
Say it one more time, Landon. You broke up. I'm sorry.
So as the coach of a women's college team, what is one thing that you would like to be changed to make the viewership for the whole game for the women increase?
I would say that, because it kind of goes back to that. I would say that, a lot of times people don't think that women can be athletic, and that's not right. Now, I would say that unfortunately for some of the coaching styles, they do not give, and that's a direct reflection of the coaches. A lot of the coaches, they'll go out and they will try to, and I hate to put it, so they almost do like a 1990s, 1980s style of basketball, a bunch of passes, especially at the high school level, because, we play the shot clock, so you have to get a lot of shots up. And, and it'll be a boring style of basketball, and nobody wants to watch boring. I don't want to watch basketball men play if it's boring. Everybody wants to see pressure. You want to see a lot of threes. You want to see people get up and down the floor. Even if you don't make a lot of shots, you want to see that. So I would say if, with the women, I would, I think the coaching needs to be, it needs to be just as good as what they put into the men. The fundamentals. Don't be afraid to coach the women hard. If it's, there needs to be some female coaches. This is coming from a male coach coaching, in a female sport. So it's kind of weird for me to say that, because you're almost knocking yourself out of a job. But, they need to be getting in to those roles where they say, hey, this is how we want to be coached. We want to be coached to where we can show our athleticism. And that would be, I think that would help the viewership go up personally. I've heard all those crazy stories about, lower the goals, they can dunk on stuff. It's not about that. It's about fundamentally just show what you're capable of doing.
Yeah. So kind of going off of that, like a lot of times people think that coaches are there just to make the players better. But I think as a coach, it's also to be like a role model for your players. Mm-hmm. So what are kind of like the benefits? And if there are, what are like some of the challenges of being a male role model for those ladies?
Yeah, because my wife plays an important role on our team. She doesn't hardly know the first thing about basketball. She'll come to our games and she'll cheer, and sometimes she's cheering stuff. And I kind of look back there and I'm like, why are you cheering that? That wasn't even something to cheer about. So it's kind of funny, and and the girls will kind of laugh, but she just cheers wildly for them. And then, but the thing is we always bring them. They come to our house all throughout the season. So it's an opportunity for them to see, like relationship between, a husband and wife, how we interact. So that's first and foremost. And then, and I try to treat them as, young women. And I try to be very respectful to them. Just because they play for me, I still try to hold the door for them. I give them say in what we do. It's kind of funny. There'll be high school coaches that call up all the time, and we have a very open door policy. If there's a high school coach out there that wants to come and watch our practice, they can come and watch it. I don't have all the answers. There's a ton of high school coaches that are better coaches than me. I would be the first to admit that. And then, but at the end of practice, a lot of them always say the same thing. You give your ladies a lot of freedom and a lot of input. And I'm like, well, my eligibility is over. I don't think anybody wants to see a 53-year-old man out there trying to play basketball. So, they want to see them play, and they're out there playing. And, no matter what I say, I can put them in, it's my job to put them in the role. We go over fundamentals, we go over a lot of things, but at the end of the day, they're the ones out there playing. And if I say, we need to be in this set offense or this set defense, but if they know the team that we're playing because we played them before, or if they know their own liabilities and capabilities as a team, they have the freedom to say, Coach, I think we could do this, or I think we could do that, or I think we could tweak this. And now they know that that they're not going to take an easy route. A lot of times they'll even they'll say, hey, I think we could trap this. I may say we could switch this, which is an easier way. And they're like, no, I think we could trap this, or I think we could run this into the sideline, or I think we could ice this. They actually typically make it harder on themselves than what I was going to do. So, and 99 times out of 100, they deliver. So, it's about giving them ownership in the program. It's about giving them freedom. It's about respecting them. And then, and then when they see that I respect them as young women and as players, then obviously they reciprocate that back to me.
Throughout your coaching career, do you have like a couple moments that like stand out that like you think were like special, or like your favorite moments?
Yeah, throughout the years, I've had a ton, when it comes to like coaching the guys, I was coaching there at Harrisburg and at Mercer County on the guys side. And, we won the region, went to the Sweet 16, had an opportunity to play Lexington Catholic when I was at Harrisburg. We played them when they had it was 3 or 4 Division I players that went on and played in the SEC, and I think David Graves, he played at Notre Dame. So it was big time, and we played them in the Elite Eight. And I remember we coming out there at Rupp Arena, and there was something like 20,000 people still left at Rupp. Everybody was trying to see that game, and we were ahead by like 12 at halftime, and it was crazy. It was, I couldn't imagine what it would be like playing or coaching at UK, and that was crazy. But at Asbury, obviously people will go back to the year, a couple years ago, the COVID game, where half the team, well over half the team had COVID or was in protocol. Some of them didn't even end up not having COVID. But we were down to 6 players. We had 5 freshmen and 1 senior, Kelsey Johnson. And we played the first round in the NAIA tournament, or in the River States tournament to go to the NAIA tournament, and we ended up winning. We were the number 1 seed, and we won that game with 6 players by something like 17 or 18 points. Went on in the second round, and it just so happens that us and West Virginia Tech were the 2 top teams that year, and we ended up in the same bracket because they ended up doing some sort of blind draw. And we played each other, and we were ahead all the way to the very end with those 6 players. And you may have even been there. It was crazy. And then it was a tie ball game, and they hit a shot at the buzzer to beat us by 3 that would have sent us to the national tournament. And even though in a loss, I guess, it was such a crazy game to see, 5 freshmen, only 2 of them played, throughout the year. The other 3 that, just played sparingly. And then obviously Kelsey, she's, was a huge contributor all 4 of her years. So basically I'm playing with 3 kids that had played minutes. The other 3 and they executed literally the game plan, that we changed everything up. And I changed something right before the game, and they executed it to perfection in both games. And it was phenomenal. And even in that loss, I remember looking over at the coach from West Virginia Tech, and she was a good friend. And I remember she had tears in her eyes, and she was like, "Coach, I don't even know if I wanted to win this game." She was like, this was crazy. She's like, you want to win for your team. She said, but, I kind of was hoping that you were going to win. And I was like, no, you got to do what you got to do. And I think anybody and everybody that knew us was kind of pulling for us. And we end up getting messages all the way. I don't know how they found out, but we got messages as far away as from California. That they'd found out about it. And Rich, there at the school, Rich Manner, he wrote a article and posted it, and it got picked up by something like I think the number's right. It's something like 80 to 100 different newspapers and outlets, and it was crazy. We were getting mail and just people just talking about how that was inspirational to them, and how even in a loss it meant something. And so I would just say that that's probably it was the highlight. And even with the girls that didn't get to play, those ladies, they were watching the game. They were able to be together because all of them either had COVID or they were in protocol, so they could be together. They were quarantined together, and they sent like a FaceTime thing, and it was just crazy. It was pretty neat.
With any level of like either guys or girls basketball, do you want to see like any like changes? Like one of the most, like to any level of basketball, like one of the most popular ones that we've gotten on the podcast is like a shot clock for high school, for example. Like, do you want to see any changes?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be I would say that. I would say that the 2 things that jump out to me are shot clock in high school. I just, when I coached here in Puerto Rico, I coached high school here. There's a shot clock here in high school, and took a little getting used to, but it made a world of difference. It was so good, and it made it so much more exciting. And then coming to the college ranks, it was, I was used to it, and it was great. And then the other, which, you probably won't see that anytime soon, so I'm not even heard anything about, is I think that the men's college, they're the last of the 2 halves. And I think they should go to 4 quarters. I don't coach college men, but I think, no one else plays 2 halves. Everything, middle school boys and girls play 4 quarters, high school boys and girls play 4 quarters, pros, the guy and women, I don't know. It's something, because like when I watch our guys, it'll be some exciting moments, and then then all of a sudden you'll hit like a lag. You get into that long lag of in the first half and second half. So I think it just would make it more exciting for the men's game. But I know a lot of the men's coaches, they like it. But I think that would be a good one for the men's college. But as far as everything else, I really do like the fact that they, I like, they brought the 3-point shot back deeper in college. I thought it was too close. They brought it back a little bit further again this year. It didn't affect my team, much because, that we kind of pride ourselves on that. We were third in the country. I think third or fourth this year, maybe. We led the nation 2 years ago in 3-point, made 3-pointers, men or women. All that was made right at 15 threes a game. And it was jacked, 40 or 50 a game. I mean, it sometimes it looked like it when you went to our games, but we actually shot a pretty good percentage. We were up around 40 some odd percent. I think the 3-point line is pretty good. I wouldn't change it for high school because it's, I think it, because it's already hard enough for some of them to score in high school. But I think the shot clock would be good because it opens up, it would open up the game more.
With you saying that, like, you used to coach high school basketball, with the current sports, like, stuff nowadays, like, I mean, they're kind of, like, eliminating a lot of the rules with stuff. And one of the big ones now is, like, enrolling in schools as a non-resident and, like, transferring, like, to whatever school basically you want to.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
Well, we knew it was probably just going to be a matter of time because some of the city schools were pretty much doing that anyways. I think in Louisville they had an open enrollment. I really can't speak to exactly how that was, but I know they pretty much had an open enrollment on how they were doing things. I know it wasn't you really couldn't just go from one side of Louisville to the other. I think there may have been some sort of requirements there, but I mean, for the way they're doing it now, I do think that they've kind of opened Pandora's box. So it's going to be difficult. I saw this past year, just in the women's side, I went to recruit a kid, and one of her teammates, she wasn't there, and I mentioned something to the coach, and he was like, "Oh no, she transferred over to another school," and I was like, "Oh really?" I was like, it's a waste of a year. He's like, "Oh no, she's already eligible. She's playing." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And so, I think that's probably a little much. I think maybe there should be, you got to put some sort of limitations on there. But in the end, these kids were doing that. They were probably some of the parents were making up stuff, and so I don't know how you were ever really justifying. Okay, well, Turner transferred here and he said that, and then Landon transferred here and he was saying this, and it was almost the luck of the draw on whether you got this person looking at your transfer papers. And so I don't know. I mean, it's probably best that but I do think that they should maybe put a limit. You should maybe only be able to transfer once in your 4 years, because I know some people are transferring. Times they're just like, "Well, I don't like this school, I'm gonna go there," and then that's probably a little too much.
Yeah, because with both me and Landon, we transferred like to different schools just like for more like opportunity based. It wasn't like we were trying to join like a powerhouse. I mean, we joined successful programs at the time, but like both of us weren't seeing opportunity as our first school compared to what we got in the second school. But like with it seems like with other schools, it's like they want to build like the powerhouse to where they become like the region favorite or even like state championship favorite. Like, I mean, it's just like, that's why I always ask that question to see like if like you see like the more like side of opportunity or like the more like there should be more limits on it, which, I mean, Landon, I don't know what you believe on this, but I mean, I kind of feel like it should be like one like reasonable transfer, but I don't think it should be like anything after that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think you should be able to get one transfer if it's for the right business.
Yeah, because if not, you become almost like a hired gun, and and then it just loses its luster. And then I'll just be honest, from a college coaching standpoint, if if you look at it from a standpoint, if I go to recruit you and you always are, if you're, I don't know what that is, and if you've moved from one school to another in your, say, 3 or 4 years, that you're in high school, what makes you think that what would make me think that you wouldn't do that in a college? Yeah. So it would give me red flags.
With like high school athletes now having like the choice between going to college, I mean this with 5 stars mainly, going to college or going the pro route, like with overseas or even like the G League Ignite team made a couple years ago. What do you think is the best option for these like athletes?
Well, I mean, I do think that if they're supremely talented like what LeBron James was, I don't know that maybe going to college is necessarily the best thing for them. But I mean, how many of LeBron Jameses have we seen, really that came out, LeBron and Kobe. But outside of that, in my lifetime, Kevin Garnett, I can pretty much name them on either one hand, no more than 2 that have come out and literally have said, this is, they've all needed 1 or 2 years. And the best ones, typically are 2 to 3 years. I mean, you take Steph Curry, what did he give us, 3 years, 3 or 4 years in college? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I mean, you can't tell a kid that they can't go. I don't think these G leagues are gonna. I don't think that they'll prepare them the way a college, like a legitimate college program would. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a Louisville or a Kentucky or a Duke or Kansas or North Carolina. I think that they probably do prepare them better than some of the other schools. But I mean, you saw Davidson, what they did for Steph because he had opportunities there. But I just don't. A lot of these kids, they just don't get the right guidance. The AAU, and I see that even at the lower levels, even at our levels in D3 and NAI. They're told, oh, you're a D2 kid, or you're a D1 player. I was there thinking, you would coming in, you're going to have to play JV for a year or 2 before you'll make, even make my varsity, and and then they become, extremely offended, and I'm like, have you come and watched us play? Have you come to our practice? You can't compete at this level, and that this is at NAI D3 level, because there's we arguably with Autumn Hereford, she was a low, D1 mid major D1 player. We had Paige Taylor. I mean, these are kids that are 6'6'1" that can play guard. So, they're bigger than some of the kids that are at these D1 schools that have talent. So I don't, some of these kids, and that's the females, and and you often see, like being here, and I coach, like I said, I coach semi-pro men, and I go to the BSN games here because the guy I coached with, he coaches in the pro leagues here at the BSN level. He's the upper level, and they have NBA guys that are here that were former NBA guys, and you're always hearing, even there at Asbury, you have guys that say, oh, Coach, you think I could? They'll ask me, Coach, you think I could play in Puerto Rico? And I'm like, no, I don't, because they just don't understand, and because I go here, and it's next level. I mean, and this is a low level pros, but these guys can stand out at 35, 40 feet out and just smoke the three, just like, I mean, they're not as good as Steph Curry, obviously, but it's next level. And then you got guys that are 6'10", 6'11", 7', 7'1", and it's so for kids to jump straight out of high school out off of the word of some AAU coach or some high school coaches who actually gets one kid that comes through every 10 to 15 years that scores 2,000 points. It's like, oh, I mean, this kid is going to go to the NBA. You're just like, I mean, and unfortunately, you should say, hey, go somewhere where you can play, and if you happen to turn out where you can go like Trent did and go overseas and play, hey, put your time in, get yourself a great education, and then let the chips fall where they may. But be realistic. That's what I always say. Just be realistic.
Landon, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I'll ask one. So obviously, I think with college and pro athletes nowadays, you see a lot of their faith being expressed through their gratitude and what they accomplish. And for some of those that don't know, Asbury is a Christian-based university. So what is like one way you can see athletes incorporate faith into what they do?
Yeah, it's really great because you saw, obviously, Steph Curry, he's always been big on about his faith, even when he has, some outbursts, because we're all humans, we all make mistakes. And the good thing about him is he's always been quick to give God the glory, but he also people understand that he makes mistakes. Oklahoma, I think it was Oklahoma women that just won the World Series, the softball World Series. They were huge. And I would be, I think one of the best things for people, if you're an athlete, is just, just to show people who you are, in your good and bad. Sometimes I think athletes are afraid because you see the old days where people get on there and they would give glory to God and they would start cussing the next minute. And so it kind of became one of those deals where they're like, oh, I don't want to be that guy, or I don't want to be that girl. And then you've seen that we kind of transcended that moment, and you start seeing some real, and I'm not saying those people don't have a real faith. I'm just saying it, but it did get a little kind of cringy there over the years. Because I think they had good intentions. They just kind of get caught up in the moment, especially when you take a microphone at somebody's face if they win, they win some big game. But I do see that, organizations like FCA, and then or the universities like Asbury University and some of the other universities that, they are doing a really good job of cultivating not just, athletes only, but the student athletes, and then incorporating their walk and letting them, live it out. That's one of the things that we do here. I'm sitting in Puerto Rico right now, and we have a women's softball team here. Later on in the year, we're going to have a women's basketball team here from Cameroon, and so they're encouraging them to walk it out, to go out and to do more than just their sport, but they're giving them an opportunity to say, how can you use your sport to glorify God and use that as an opportunity to attract other people, and do it in a manner that you have confidence in. So often, if you ask someone to say give a testimony or whatever, they would kind of be like, well, I don't know if I can do that or not. But if you say, can you do that with a basketball? Or can you do that with a football or a baseball? They're like, oh yeah, I can do that. And so, sports is a great vehicle and a means for young people and young adults to share their faith. And so, that was like, I go back to Oklahoma women's softball. You could tell some of those girls may not have been as comfortable answering questions, But the second that they had an opportunity to say how God was using their platform in the World Series, they became so comfortable, and then they were able to just go right into it. So I mean, I think it's great that in colleges are doing this, and even the universities. Obviously, Oklahoma is it's a public school, so they're it's not like Asbury where we're a private faith-based university. I mean, Oklahoma, that's the them and Oklahoma State. They're the two largest universities there in Oklahoma. They encouraged it, so that's good. I mean, it's super exciting as a man of faith.
Landon, do you have any more questions for him?
Yeah, but I think we're running short on time, so.
Yeah. The last big question I'll ask Coach is, I mean, it's more of an open-ended kind of thing. Is I just give you the floor to give any advice or just speak your mind on anything. So do you have any kind of advice for anybody listening?
I mean, as far as for guys like you all that and especially anybody who wants to be a coach, just I mean that because that's what I can say. I never thought in a million years I'd be here. It's been such a wild ride. I'm thankful, blessed, and honored to do this, to work. Because even though I'm coaching the women's basketball team, I'm still around. The men's team. I'm around. I'm around all the other sports there. Sports is it's paying the bills at my house. God has blessed me, and I'm so thankful. And I tell you, it is such a great way of life, and for everybody, whether you're doing sports management or you're doing something in maybe physical fitness from the standpoint of training, medicine, or whether you're coaching, it's such a great avenue. It's such a great opportunity, and you don't have to coach or do all that in the pros or colleges. You can do it in the high school. And like I said earlier, there's high school coaches out there that are better than me. It's just the opportunity I got. I'm thankful, blessed, and you can make a difference. And whether it be men or women, young men, young women, or kids, and just take advantage of it, and you can make a huge difference in someone's life.
All right. That's the end of the podcast episode. So, Coach, I appreciate you coming on, and hope you're having a good time in Puerto Rico.
And thank you, Turner, and thank you, Landon, for having me. Maybe we can run it back again someday.
Of course.
Absolutely.
All right. I'll see y'all later.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
All right. All right.